Hello, I'm Laquette, and I'm the author of the book My Beginning, and I'm on Friday Night Live with Jerry Royce.
Hello, my name is Ramon Llewellyn, the author of District 69, The Crimson Edition, and I'm live on Friday Night Live with Jerry Royce.
Thank you for joining us at POWER21.org, a Royce Enterprises production. This is Friday Night Live with Jerry Royce and friends, featuring Laquette from New York City, Ramon from Florida, and Firemouth from Louisiana. These are both romance and erotica authors, so if you're under the age of 18 or can't handle graphic conversation, please disconnect. This is for adults only. I repeat, this is for adults only. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Jerry Royce and friends on Friday Night Live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Night Live with Jerry Royce and friends. I'm Jerry Royce, and my friends are on the line, and this is a commercial-free show. So first, we'd like to say welcome to the show, Laquette and Ramon, and I'm glad to have you guys on. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Now, we have Laquette, with the author, a romance author. She has a book out called My Beginning. And then we have Ramon from the Florida area with a book called District 69, which is a nonfiction. Both their books are on sale right now, and I believe you can get both their books on Amazon. But they do have websites. Now, Laquette's website is laquettelikes.com, and Ramon has a site called laqueezebox.com. So you might have to Google his name in the book to find that site in case you can't spell it. But it's THEQUIS box.com. All right. Now, Laquette, you're going to start off with a reading for the show, right, and get us started.
I don't know why you always want me to read from this book, Jerry. I keep telling you, my mama is listening to this. You're going to get me in all sorts of trouble.
What's going to happen when she listens to the second show that's 11 o'clock? You know that show going to be raw. I know this one's going to be a little more tamer. So what's going to happen if she decides to stay on?
It's not her daughter talking about it, you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right about that. All right. So what was going to happen? Okay, so Ramon read his book is okay then, huh?
Oh, of course she wouldn't care about that, but I'm her baby. You know, no one likes to think of their baby, you know, coming up with stuff like this.
Right. That's fine.
All right, I understand. All right, so you're not going to get anything from me tonight?
No, you'll get something from me tonight, of course. I've already warned them, Mama, cover your ears. You know, you might be you might be clutching your pearls just a little bit. We're going to start off with something a little slow, something that's not necessarily talking about the sexual aspect of the book, but the emotional aspect of the book, and talking about the emotional aspect coming from the male perspective, which is not often covered in romance literature. So,
all right. Let's hear it.
Genesis. He couldn't get past the sound of her name on his lips. It had been so long since he'd spoken it out loud, so long since it had brought a smile to his face. It almost hurt to say it now, with her standing behind him at the ready, waiting to break free. Drew, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was so wrong, she said softly, taking a small, quiet breath. I don't know how to tell you how sorry I am. How sorry you are? That what? He turned back to her swiftly, eyes coated with anger. Sorry for accusing me of cheating on you. Sorry for not stopping Desiree from nearly raping me. Or sorry that you ran away like an insecure coward instead of sticking around long enough to work things out with me. Exactly which of those things are you sorry for, Genesis? She stepped gingerly, closing the small distance between the two of them. She lifted her arms carefully, waiting, watching for any sign that he might reject her. And when she was almost certain that her touch would not do him harm, she closed her arms around his neck and pressed herself against his warmth. I'm sorry for all of it, she said on whispered breath, and so much more. I should have known that something was wrong. I should have known there was no way you would willingly turn to Desiree. I should have trusted in our love enough to know that you would never hurt me that way. But most of all, I'm sorry that I left you there, scared and unable to defend yourself. I'm sorry my insecurities put your safety at risk. And I'm sorry that I didn't have the brass to stay and fight versus cutting and running. She stroked her hand across his cheek and spoke in a matching rhythm. Please forgive me, Drew. I'm so sorry. Please give me another chance to earn your love. She took her hand and softly pressed it to the back of his neck, running her fingers over the prickly hairline of his freshly shaved head, sending electric tingles through his skin. She kept swiping her fingers there, as if hoping the motion would soothe the fury he was holding inside. She'd done the same thing at his mother's funeral, and just as before, he could feel his body release the tension of the pain he'd been holding inside. He felt her shiver as his arm slowly crawled up her side and down her arm. When his hands reached her wrist behind his neck, he pulled them slowly down and looked at her, through her. You have my love, Genesis. You always have. He leaned in and kissed her roughly, needing to taste her sweetness after being denied for so long. He crushed his lips to her own, and when she parted his lips on a deep moan, he slipped his tongue inside of her supple warmth. He suckled at her honey and worried her bottom lip with nips as he tore himself away with a ragged breath. He watched a smile grow at the corners of her mouth when he said, It's my trust you've lost and can never have again. Drew examined her face as full understanding fell from furrowed brow to her open mouth. He stepped back from her and turned back to the door. If you had trusted your man, we would have been fine. We would have worked through anything. I told you I would never hurt you. I guess in the end, my word wasn't enough. He felt her sharp hold on his arm, trying to pull him back to her. Drew, please don't do this, she cried. Don't do what? Don't walk away like you did? Is that what you were going to say, Genesis? Her grip on his arm tightened. He spared her a glance and saw the tears pouring from her eyes. Baby, please don't do this. Please don't let. He snatched his arm out of her grasp. You should have listened to your man. He opened the door and walked out. It wasn't until he heard the soft click of the door closing behind him that he realized he had really walked out, that this wasn't a terrible dream, and he had really willingly walked away from everything he'd ever wanted. It was really over.
Wow.
Wow, that was smooth. Genesis. Tell us about Genesis.
Reading.
I know. I want to, before you get started on her, Ramon, tell us a little about Genesis, Laquette.
Genesis?
Personality. Yeah.
Genesis is a wonderful woman who has unfortunately experienced a lot of hurt and pain at the hands of people that are supposed to love her, like her birth-given family as well as her husband or ex-husband at this point in the book. She has been through a lot before she comes to this relationship, and so unfortunately, as some women do, has brought a lot of that baggage into this new relationship. And she's not a hateful woman. She's not a woman that runs around. She's not a man hater. She's not talking about how men ain't this and men ain't that. That's not her personality. She just doesn't necessarily believe that love is for her. She spent a lot of her time focusing on her career. She spent a good amount of time focusing on her education and building her business and building her professional reputation. And she's kind of purposely shied away from love because she's always seemed to fail at it. And so for her, it was always work until her work brought her literally to love's door.
All right. All right, all yours, Ramon. Ooh.
Well, one thing I always wonder about women, and just touching on something you mentioned with Genesis, when women go through tragedy, especially in relationships, and they have their heart broken, why do you think it's so hard for women to move on and allow their heart to embrace love again versus with men, it don't really take us that long?
Well, I don't want to say that for men it's a lot physical because there are some women that it's just about the physicality too.
Right.
But I think for men, it's sort of acceptable in society. I'm really into the whole social constructs and, you know, the things that society says, you know, the little areas that they have constructed to say that this is what's proper for this particular type of person, this is what's proper or expected for this particular type of person, and so on and so forth. And I think because of gender roles that society has identified with both male and females, men are, so, you know, in terms of society, are supposed to be the ones that that socially are out there, that sexually are a little more out there and a little more risque than women are. It's always supposed to be the man that's the hunter, the chaser, the one that, you know, conquers, and the women are supposed to be the ones that are conquered. And so when you've kind of bought into that mindset that men are predators and that love is not necessarily something to love means to be weak. Once you've been hurt and you associate that to your weakness, then you decide, I'm not going to be weak anymore. Or I'm not going to be weak for right now. I need to take some time out to be strong for me because I don't ever want to feel weak like that again. And unfortunately, what that can turn into is, well, no, I'm not trying to go there with you.
I think when it comes to men, you know, women are, when you think of women, you think of women being, you know, the more emotional creatures. Men tend to hold things in. We don't really deal with certain things. So I think when we move on to a relationship, we're still not over baggage from the previous one. Whereas with women, I think y'all more so want to close one door before y'all go open the next one.
I think that's part of it. Although I do know men and women who are, of course, don't fit either mold. But I do agree to some degree that men definitely don't like to address whatever their emotional issues are, because again, to really love someone, you have to be vulnerable to a certain extent. And the deeper you love someone, the greater your vulnerability. And I think men have a problem with being seen as vulnerable. And that's one of the things I wanted to address in my book, which is why my male lead is the victim of an attempted rape. He's drugged by some groupie-type chick who attempts to take advantage of him sexually. And his girlfriend actually walks in on it and assumes it's him cheating versus him being assaulted.
Right.
And it just so happens she leaves. Like, she doesn't say anything. She doesn't question. She just sees what she sees and leaves. And it just so happens some friends of theirs enter the room after she's left and discover what's going on, and they you know, rescue him from the situation. But it's one of the things I definitely wanted to address, and one of the reasons why I wrote that into the story, because I wanted people to understand that vulnerability is something that happens to everyone. And it has nothing to do with being male or female. It's just a human thing, you know?
Right. Yeah, and a lot of times with vulnerability, it's really looked, and even for men and women, a lot of times people view it as a weakness. Why do you think that is?
I think to some degree because sometimes people do prey upon those weaknesses, whether it's the gold-digging chick who knows that, you know, by trading sexual favors to this man, he's going to keep her, you know, laced in the lifestyle she aspires to without really having to put in any traditional work to acquire that. Or whether it's the dude who is, you know, knows this girl has, you know, he has this girl's heart, and so he treats her any kind of way, and he keeps coming back to her and, doing whatever he's doing, promising her, baby, 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 I promise I'm going to change, when she threatens to leave, and then he never does change. He makes it look good for a couple of weeks and then goes back to whomever he was before that, only because he knows what her weakness is. She knows what his weakness is, and they capitalize on it. And unfortunately, people like that have made love a bad thing. And a lot of people just don't want to go through that kind of emotional upheaval to invest themselves so deeply into someone, only to find that their fairy tale is really a nightmare.
Right. And I think it's really hard for people, too, if you have been in a situation where you've been vulnerable and you didn't want to be, but you were just so in love or so in tune to the person that you allowed yourself to let your guard down. And then you end up getting your heart broken. And so it's kind of like, I told myself so. I should have never let my guard down. And it's hard for that person to really begin to trust again. And it's unfortunate because I think a lot of us have been through that to some degree. And it really affects how you allow yourself to be loved. And it can kind of be stressful at times.
Oh, it's completely so. Real life story, true life. When I met my husband, I had no intention of being involved with him. I had so many, and I thank God that he chose him and I didn't choose him, because I literally had no intention of being involved with him. I met him quite accidentally on the street, and when he tried to approach me, I was just like, dude, keep it moving. I'm not even feeling you right now, okay? And it wasn't that he was disrespectful, wasn't that he was nasty. It was none of those things, because he wasn't. He was actually quite polite and very nice. But I just wasn't in a place where I could accept that for face value. And I'd gone through a lot of emotional upheavals in my past relationships. And the most recent one prior to him, I felt so used emotionally that I just completely shut down, and I had no desire whatsoever to have a romantic relationship at that point. I just wanted to love me. And so I went on about a 6-month hiatus where I didn't want to be bothered with any man and just loved me. And it was great, and I was having fun as a single woman for the first time in my life when my husband walked into my life. And he was so smart that he must have sensed that there was something else going on other than me just being nasty, because for whatever reason he pressed on. And he played the friend card for a really long time. We didn't date like traditionally. If we wanted to go out, we went out in groups with our friends. We went out on group dates with to movies, to restaurants, things like that. Right. And, he threw it all. He was patient. He kept doing it until maybe about, I'd say anywhere between 6 to 8 months afterwards, he looked at me one day. He's like, so when am I ever going to get to take you on a real date? Right. And I said, what do you mean a real date? He says, well, I said, we go on dates all the time. He said, no, we go out with friends all the time. You and I don't go out. Why don't we go out? And at that point, I just couldn't come up with a good enough reason why we shouldn't go out. And so he won that argument, and we went out, and I've been with him ever since. This October, God willing, we'll be 6 years married, and I think 7.5 years together. So
that's wonderful.
It happens. But I met him at a point I was, where emotionally I was very, very low, and I just was not into the whole being vulnerable thing. And it's just awesome that he just happened to be the right man that came into my life at that point. Unfortunately, a lot of women are not necessarily that fortunate to meet the right man. A lot of times people sniff vulnerability. They sniff weakness. Right. Especially predators out there. They have it down to a science. And so sometimes people can just feel like it's not a good thing for me to be involved in at all. So I completely agree with you that our past definitely can color our future.
Right. So in touching on relationships, I know that's kind of like a big basis of what you do. What do you think are like 3 key aspects to like a successful relationship in your opinion?
For my characters, I think every story that I am in the process writing or have written, it's always about trust. Mm-hmm. That's what it boils down to, and usually the demise of the relationship, because in every romance story, before you can get to that happily ever after, they have to go through some conflict and more than likely break up before they can, make it wonderful. And usually that conflict or that breakup comes because one or both of them is not being completely honest with either their partners or themselves. And usually that brings about trouble in a relationship because people don't feel like they're on sure footing. They always feel like you have one foot in the relationship and one foot out of. So I think both in terms of my writing and even my personal life, I think that the key to a successful relationship is truth, is honesty, is being willing to talk to each other, even when you get on each other's nerves. It's not that in 7.5 years of being together, my husband and I have never gotten on each other's nerves. Of course we do. It's the nature of being with someone all the time. We do. There are plenty of times he might not like his wife, but he will always love his wife. And that's generally because we are honest with each other, and we also, another key, respect one another. And I think today's relationships are lacking that. I don't know if it's a generational thing, because I'm knocking on 40's door. I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm knocking on 40's door. And I think my generation and older have a different perspective of how we relate to people versus this newer generation. And it seems to be popular to be disrespectful to your partner, to be publicly disrespectful to your partner, to say all types of crazy things, and that's just not how we interact with one another. I can be very mad with him, but I'm not going to call him out his name because he's my husband, and I respect him above all men. And so I would never disrespect him like that, and he doesn't do that to me either. That's not to say we don't have heated arguments. It's not to say we don't express ourselves when we're angry, but we figured out a positive way to do it that doesn't end up with us hurting the relationship.
Right.
And I think that's missing a lot in relationships nowadays. The way I hear people talk, I have girlfriends that just talk about the men in their lives so badly, and my question is, well, if he's that bad, why are you with him? I don't understand.
Yeah, times are definitely different. How people view relationships when it comes to like the dedication or just how you respect your relationships. I think certain things in relationships shouldn't be broadcast, but people are so quick to tell their business, not even just on the whole sexual tip, but it's just all the ins and outs of a relationship. You don't need to communicate that to your friends or your relatives or all different people. Some things need to be stay between you and the person you're with. But that whole secrecy, that whole secrecy and respect for your relationship is so different now.
It's no longer, it's YouTube. I blame everything on YouTube. Let me rephrase that. I do not have a problem with YouTube. So YouTube people, please do not come looking for me. I do not have a problem with YouTube. What I mean by that is we live in a generation where everything is visual, everything is instantaneous, everything is recordable, everything is uploadable. So everybody wants to live the celebrity lifestyle. So even if they can't live the actual celebrity lifestyle, they're creating their own celebrity through social media. And so it's now, they see these reality TV shows, which aren't really reality TV shows, because that's all scripted too. But they want to mimic those sorts of things and have these sorts of dramatic moments publicly. And the thing is, it doesn't matter how angry or mad I am with my husband. Nobody outside of my house will ever know it because it's none of their business. You will never see me on Facebook saying anything other than how fantastic of a human being he is, because nobody needs to know anything else. That's not their business. That's between he and I. They don't need to know what we do, how we do it, because what works for us is not going to work for everyone else. One of the greatest pieces of advice we ever received before we got married was from a couple that kind of mentors us. They've been married for about 20-some-odd years. And they said the secret to their marriage was keeping their family out of their business. They never allowed their family to get in the middle of what they had going on. And we just adopted that policy that what's ours is ours, and, you know, no one else has to be involved in it. And it's worked thus far. So I think you're completely right.
Exactly. Before I carry on, I just want to mention that if you have any callers that are interested in getting on this conversation, all you have to do is definitely press *6. Once again, any call. Call on the line.
Hello?
Yeah, caller 2676. If you'd like to ask a question to our guest, it's up to you. You can just hit *6.
And just
I guess they didn't want to talk.
I know, right? I guess one thing, touching on what you said, I just remember growing up and hearing people say, the most successful relationships are the ones where you don't allow outside people within your household. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're having problems, for example, with your mate, you don't need to broadcast all that information to, let's say, your cousin or your auntie, because then you mess around and you and your mate have made up, but your aunt or your cousin don't know that.
Exactly. So they're never going to let it go.
They're not going to let it go. So now when they see your mate, now they come at him or her with all these kind of issues, It's crazy, But even on the whole sexual tip, a lot of women I know, they like to share, their experiences with their man. And I've always been told that that's a very sticky situation, because you put your man on, you're promoting him in that way, and you just making it seem as if it's the best thing since sliced bread. Now she might want to experience that, and if she's not no loyal type of chick, she's going to try to experience what you've been promoting to her. So people got to really be careful how they broadcast what's going on in their relationship.
You are absolutely right about that. There's an author friend of mine named Kenny York who has a book coming out called Is She Your Friend or Foe? And that's one of the premises of the book. This girl who is supposedly a friend, but at the same time soaking up all of these little jewels about your relationship and kind of saying, well, maybe this is something that I should have. Maybe he should be with me instead. It's just an integrity thing, and there are certain things that should not be expressed. The reason sex is called intimacy, is because it's supposed to be something privately shared between you and your partner. No one needs to know that. I mean, first of all, I don't know what this obsession is people have with knowing what's going on in other people's bedrooms, because, visually speaking, sex is not the prettiest thing you've ever seen in the world. It's just not. So I don't know why people have this fixation with wanting to know what you look like when you're getting yours. It shouldn't be. I don't want that.
Some people are voyeurists. They get off on that kind of stuff. Hey, you never know.
Sure do.
I don't know, but I don't want images of my girlfriends and their partners running through my head. I don't ever want to see a sex tape from my friends. I don't want to accidentally ever in life come across some hot mess like that.
So you think it could be educational?
No, no.
You might see something. You might see something, and you can learn a few tricks and trades.
Leave that to the professionals. If I really need to see something, I will go online. I will go buy a DVD, but I don't need to know what my girl looks like when she's getting hers. And for sure, no one needs to know that of me. That is something that is sacred between my husband and I. That is something that it's not just about the physical. It's about keeping our connection. And I don't want anyone else to know about how our connection works, because it's ours. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's too much now. Go ahead. I'm finished.
Oh, no, it's good. Do you think a relationship can sustain? Let's say, for example, if the sex isn't good.
That's a hard one because, and no pun intended, really, it wasn't. I think that both partners have to be. Again, there's when that honesty thing comes in. And both partners really have to be honest about what they need. You know, we all have certain needs, and whatever your need or needs are, you need to be able to feel comfortable enough with your partner to express that. And maybe your partner is not the greatest at that. Well, that's what educational materials are for. I guess other people might call that porn, but I say it's educational. Research is what it is.
There you go. Right.
And research is great because you learn all sorts of new things, new and wonderful things when you research. And the best kinds of research is when you research together. So I think if you feel like you are in a relationship where the sex is not exactly what you want it to be, you have to say something, and be careful how you say something. You don't need to disrespect your partner or belittle them, but you can make it something fun. Hey, babe, you know, I was thinking about some new stuff. You know, I saw something on a video, and I was thinking maybe we could try it. Let's watch the video and see what you think about it. You know, there doesn't have to be any blame attached to it because two people could have had the greatest sexual experiences separately with other people, but, you know, when they come together for whatever reason, it's just not working. There are ways around it. You know, I think if sex can't be the center of your relationship. Now, it's an extremely important part of the relationship, but it can't be the center of your relationship. So if you love this person, then you're going to find out how to make it so that you can make love to this person and be satisfied if you love this person. But if this is, you know, somebody that's really, you're not really trying to invest any time with, then why bother? Move on to the next.
Exactly. I think we have a caller that's on the line ready.
Go ahead, caller.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Congratulations on y'all books.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to tell y'all who it is on the line. That's the world famous Firemouth.
Oh,
girl, the diamond encrusted lips you have on Twitter. Oh.
Nice to hear the voice behind the master.
So how you doing, honey?
I can't complain. Just wrapped up a book discussion, and now I'm going to kick it with you guys. Y'all doing all right tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, she's coming on. So we're looking forward to you coming on 11 with Ramon. Bring your hat, right?
Oh, you know it. I hope he's ready.
Yes, goodness. Let's see how this going to go.
Laquette,
I know it's going to be interesting. I just wanted to call in and show some love to you guys. Great show. I'm enjoying it.
That's what's up.
Right.
And Jerry, you know I love you to death. GPOE in the house.
Thank you, sweetie. Can't wait to get you on. All right.
All right.
Stick around a little bit. All right.
Of course. I'm enjoying the show. I sure will.
All right.
Y'all keep rocking the mic. Talk to y'all soon.
All right. Now, Ramon, you've gotten the female perspective for a good bit now. I'd like to hear something, from you and kind of get that whole, male perspective, because sometimes I don't always understand it. So, it would be nice to have a little explanation behind it.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think first off, 69. Right. I think definitely for men in relationships, men want to feel appreciated. Men want to feel that a woman needs and wants them. A man likes to feel desired. Because at the end of the day, let's say you have a female who she's the breadwinner. She has a thriving career. She brings in more money. but she still needs to be able to make sure he feels like he's the man of the relationship, the man of the household. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I know some men conduct themselves in a sense where they don't deserve to be treated as such. Then that's the type of man you need to be with in the first place. But if you have a real man who conducts himself as such, I think women have to really be on their P's and Q's and make sure that each morning and each night you're making him feel as if he is your king and he's desired. Because if you don't, someone's going to give him attention. And at the end of the day, it's really all about stroking the ego. That's really what a lot of it boils down to. If we don't feel like we have a purpose in the relationship, then we're not going to mentally be in it. We have to feel like we have a place in the relationship. And I think that's where a lot of women get lost. You know, they expecting the man to constantly feed into them. And it turns out to be kind of one-sided. But then, you know, it has to be a seesaw. It has to be give and take. It has to be up and down. A lot of these younger women don't understand that.
Yeah. I will completely agree with you on that one. I honestly believe that women of today have lost a little bit of that, I won't say, you know, women look at the word submit or submission like it's an evil thing, right? Because society has played it up to mean something dirty almost when it comes to how a woman perceives herself. And you talked about, you know, a man needing his ego stroked. Do you feel that a woman then should make herself appear lesser in order to stroke her man's ego?
No, I don't think she makes herself lesser. I think that she should be able to have an identity of her own and still be submissive. I think women need to learn how to keep that balance. You don't have to lessen yourself or dumb down yourself in order to make him feel better, because at the end of the day, you need to be his helpmeet. And that's what a lot of women, I think, don't understand. You could be that boss. You could be that CEO, you know, type of mentality, but you still need to know when it's time to play the role. You know, it's kind of like role play. When to take the boss hat on and when to take it off. You know, you really have to understand that there's a time and place for everything and how to turn it off like a light switch, basically.
I agree. I completely agree. I think a lot of my ladies and a lot of them probably going to be mad with me when I say this. I know y'all going to be mad, but I think some of us sometimes don't know how to step back a little.
Right.
As I said, I just feel like women need to be women and not try to be men. Right. And I know I'm going to get some dirty comments behind this. But what I mean by that is, you know, you just really have to be able to let your man lead. That does not mean follow him into the ditch, you know, but you need to be able, you need to be able to say, I trust that he has me, and let me take a step back and let him shine and do his thing if necessary. Now, all y'all ladies that's out there smacking y'all lips over what I just said, if you really got a question, you want to come for me, it's okay. I think I can handle myself a little bit. You know, if you have any questions, you can call 559-726-1300 with access code 895455, and you can hit *6 if you want to ask us a question.
Definitely. And I think one thing that messes up a lot of women, you know, they get into these relationships and they have a guy who, let's say, he's not bringing anything to the table, or he used to bring something to the table and now he's not. So now you feel like you have to carry the load and carry the burden. Like I said before, that's the type of man you don't need to be with. Because one thing I like to tell people is that when you're in a relationship, it should enhance your life, not stress it. So if you feel like the person you're with, you got to be the man and the woman. You got to be mama and daddy. you're with the wrong person. You are not with the person who you are destined to be with, and you're wasting your time while your soulmate is probably out there with somebody else.
I agree. When I got with my husband, all that stress and drama was gone out of my life. And I realized that I wasn't really all that in love with the people I had believed myself to be in love with in the past. I was just addicted to the drama. And that's really all it was. It's not, because real love is about fortitude and taking care of your partner, and each of you taking care of each other. And it does not work if you're not taking care of each other. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like if, God forbid, my husband was down for any reason and he could no longer bear the burden of the family, then it's my job to step up and do what I can and do what I have to do to help him in the meantime. But, I think a lot of ladies take that, oh, well, if he ain't making bank, then I'm out. No. Mm-hmm. If things happen in life, we all go through transitions in life, and when he hits a rough spot, especially when you say those words, for better or worse, you have to mean that you really want to be there no matter how bad the worst gets. Mm-hmm. So, women, we got to step up our game. You want a king, you got to be a queen, and that's just how it has to be.
Right. And do you think when those hard times happen, you mentioned about the man falling on hard times and the woman still being there, do you think there should be a time limit on that hard time? Like, do you think that hard time should be 3-4 years if she's still with him? Some men can get complacent.
Some men can get complacent, and I'm not talking about, of course, a man that is complacent, that's not trying to do for himself. But in this economy, anything can happen. People who were well off and wealthy yesterday, tomorrow might not be so. It is just that crazy out there right now. You have to be willing to work with your partner. However, if you see that you are working and your husband or your partner is not working with you, then you might need to move on to the next situation.
Right. And I think you touched on something very important when you mentioned you were addicted to the drama. I think that's something that men and women, when we get into the situations, the relationships continue to not work for the same reason. We really do become addicted to what we like, for example. If it's a woman beater, if it's a man who cheats, if it's someone who is never honest, we really become addicted to that and feel like that's what we're worth. We start to think it's okay and that type of behavior is normal.
You are absolutely right. I think happiness is a choice. The song I chose for my wedding to walk down the aisle to my husband was Today by Music Soul Child. And one of the lines that I love about it is he says, today I made up my mind. I'm going to take this chance, bet my life on it, on this love, this precious love that I found in you. It's a choice. It really is a choice. I think we have a question coming at us. Is your hubby a good listener? I guess the person is talking to me. Is your hubby a good listener? It depends. It depends. He's a man, and I will say this. I think it's the Y chromosome. It really is, or the testosterone, whichever you want to say. Sometimes it kind of, builds up the wax in your ears, and you don't necessarily, if you feel like it's, if you feel like it's something you don't want to be bothered with, you don't necessarily hear it. It's selective hearing, I should say. But if I really sit him down and say, hey, babe, this is how I'm feeling about a particular situation, he's awesome at it. He really is. He's very comforting. He really cares about how I feel, and that I feel whole. I guess another question is my husband the jealous type? Is any man that is in love not the jealous type? to some extent. He's extremely protective of what he has because he knows what he had before this. Even to the point where certain things, when I go outside, I dress. I love to dress and I love to look good and I love to embrace my curves. But I also know that I have a husband who doesn't want me showing off all his, goodies out to the world, because to him that says you're trying to entice someone else to, embrace what I have, and I would never do that. I would never put my husband in a situation to be the jealous type, because I think unless a dude is just irrational and just he thinks that every man that look at you is out to get you. Right. You have some irrational people like that, but
you do.
I think if he's at the point where he's having a problem with a particular person, that's because you're letting something happen, whether something is physically transpired or not. You're letting something happen. Please, if you have questions, hit *6 for our Q&A. Call in and talk to us.
Definitely. And I know we only have a few minutes left, and I want people to really get to know your book. Where are some places where they can find your book?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, my website, LaquetteLikes.com. That's spelled LaQuetteLikes.com. You can get it on all those places. I have the ebook. I have the trade paperback. Also, next week, Saturday, on the 12th, I will be at the Harlem Book Fair signing books. So if you want to come down and cop a copy or just say hello, I will be there.
Cool. And what is one thing that you really want people to get from your book when they read it?
I want people to understand that love is attainable if you open yourself up to it. And not just any old kind of love, but the grand love that you read about in romance novels like mine.
Nice. And I know a lot of times they say that art imitates life, and I know definitely we as authors, we're creating a form of art. So do you think that when you wrote this book that you kind of, base it off some of your personal experiences?
Not my personal experiences, maybe some of my personal emotions. I mean, do you feel like you do the same thing, that you have that, exercise your demons, so to speak, your emotional demons through your writing?
Definitely. I definitely think for me personally, I think I've done that, and I think one thing with my book is that it's a collection of real life experiences. I've definitely through some of my own experiences and escapades into my book, and I think that's definitely allowed people to relate to it. So I definitely think it's a wonderful thing when we can build our art off of our experience or off our emotions. It's a wonderful thing that you did that.
Oh, well, before we go, just tell us where we can find your book, the title, where we can find it, what it's about. Quick, tell us before Jerry gets us.
I know, right? Because this is good. My book is called District 69, the Crimson Edition. It is also available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Nook. And you can also find it on my site, which is called the Kace Box. That's www.thequisbox.com. Okay. And I know I have a few events coming up, but just go to that website and you can keep up to date with me.
All right.
Awesome.
Look, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, man, that was great. You guys did an awesome job. I appreciate y'all hosting my show. We definitely got to have y'all back. Next time I won't book a double show. The only reason why I did, because everybody, one artist, Fire just released a book this week, so I wanted to give her a chance to, have a whole show. So we're going to do a longer show next time, because you guys are good.
You put two people that like to write about love, sex, and romance together. Of course, we got nothing but yapping.
Right, we could go all night. All night long.
Look! It's just the first show, so now that you guys showed me how much energy y'all have, then we just got to do it an hour and a half show next time. Maybe 2 hours.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think you two gel very well. It sounds like you guys gel with Fire also. so we'd be able to come together again and do another one. All right.
All righty. Thank you
All right,
again, and it was awesome hanging out with you, Ramon.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too, Laquette.
Hey, Laquette, sound like you guys should be having your own shows.
You know, it's so funny you said that because that was just in my mind. Like
yeah, because
don't
then I can start
Don't tempt me. I'll be calling you, asking you for pointers.
Hey, no problem. Look, they doing it all the time. Look, then I'll be able to start an association for black podcasters, right?
Sound like we own something.
No,
right now.
This podcasting thing is getting big. I have no clue how to get into it, but it seems to be getting big. And I really have thought about the whole hosting. It seems to be the new thing now.
That's right.
Right,
it's getting
right.
trendy, you know. And you guys got talent, so, you know, why not? All right, but we got to go, y'all, and I appreciate everybody hanging out there. I know some people kind of shy. They didn't want to ask no questions, but, hey, at least they were, you know, tuned into us, and I appreciate them being part of Jerry Royce Live on Friday night. All right, take care, you two. See you in a little bit.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Positive Power 21 Network. Team 21 would like to thank you all for tuning in, and please spread the word and tell a friend. This is Jerry Royce at Positive Power 21, where we get our positive on.
Positive Power 21.org, Internet Radio.
All right, y'all, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.